Rosenberg, your roving reporter, and I'm taking you tonight to Tunisia, a magic land on the north of Africa, not next to Morocco, but one country away. There's Algeria and then Tunisia. I'm not going to give you a political treatise. I'm going to talk about the wonders of the ancient ruins there from Carthage. Can you believe I walked in the streets where Hannibal probably walked? And the modern city of Tunis is wonderful, and the desert in the south of the country, Duz, and south on the dunes of the Sahara. Well, you'll see. Follow along. We are now in the middle of Tunis, the major city of Tunisia. And there's everything here from a 13th century mosque to the old Kasbah, which has been traditionally in the highest place of the city. And now it's been turned into government center with the new buildings and the new city hall and all the ministries of many countries located in the area. And you can see how well maintained this is. Like all of Tunisia, really, it's been an experience for me to be here. I was never expecting such contemporary and yet at the same time traditional city. It's positively wonderful. And here at the beginning of the Medina, the old city, which we're about to enter, go by a mosque, we have with us a very erudite and handsome, I might say, gentleman from the university who's going to introduce himself and say hello to Philadelphians.
I'm Najib Ben Lazari, full researcher in the National Institute of Heritage, and I welcome you here in the city of Tunis, and I will be very happy to guide you and show you some aspects of this old town.
The old town, that's what we're going to see. It goes back how long?
Oh, the foundation goes back to, as an ancient town, it goes back to the 4th century BC, but as a Muslim town, it goes back to 735 AD.
Oh, new. Brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, for the 4th century BC, it's rather recent.
Very recent compared to what you're used to. How many million years do you go back in your research?
Not my research, but the most ancient layers in Tunisia go back to 2,500,000 years BC.
2,500,000. I was a mere child then.
Yeah, these are prehistoric. But the most important sites go back to the ancient period, the Punic, Roman, Byzantine, and of course the Islamic periods.
Well, this is wonderful, just wonderful. You see everything here in Tunis, from Berber women who are all wrapped up in what I say is tablecloths, white, to women in jeans. Oh, and there's a little guy who's... Okay, let's start out on our journey through the Medina. Mosque. This one is, I mean, kind of new in the grand scheme of things. Isn't it beautifully proportioned? Just lovely.
The mosque itself is the oldest of Tunis.
Yeah, let you say that.
Yeah, what you see in front of us is the Zitouna Mosque, which is the oldest of the city of Tunis, built in 735 AD, and it was the Great Mosque of Tunis and the University of Tunis. So it's a very important center that lit with its knowledge all this part of North Africa. Students came from Algeria, Tunisia, and Tripolitania too.
That's exciting, really. It's very beautiful. And this makes our Jewelers Row, our poor little puny Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, look pretty tiny. because here the whole street around the Great Mosque, the whole area around the Great Mosque is goldsmiths. They always had the best craftsmen near the Great Mosque, which you just saw from 735, and one store after another of traditional goldsmithing work. And if you can, oh, the men offer the women a dowry, not the other way around. That's kind of different in Tunisia. I think I'll come live over here. And other little baubles that they have in Tunisia are beautiful, beautiful ceramics and things like perfume bottles, but gosh, the perfume that you put in them is kind of stinky. However, the dishes are simply, well, you see, it's an Arabian Nights here, this whole Medina of the craftsmen. Wonderful. And here are the ladies making Tunisian rugs. You notice they are all women because their hands are more pliable, their fingers are more nimble, and they make the handmade rugs, the oriental rugs from Tunisia. And these are friends of our very own oriental rug dealer from Philadelphia, well, from Wayne actually. But here I am, 6 degrees of separation, they say, around the world. In Tunisia, with all this gorgeous stuff surrounding us, and here are these gentlemen who are friends of Jerry's. And just in case you think you've seen it all, you haven't. I'm in the souk now of a man who makes perfumes from all the various basic rose and lemon and amber mist, orange, wonderful attars, wonderful, basic, and people come and have them mixed to their own. Very famous perfume makers come to him for the basic oils, and they take them back to the United States, put them in fancy bottles, and charge you a mint. I'm having a hard time absorbing this, but I want you to know that this is the ancient Carthage. Carthage started in 814 BC. You've all heard of Dido. These are capitals from the columns from 814 BC. You realize how old that is now. And then it went down, and then after the Carthaginians, there were the Romans, and then then it was ruined and built up again. But this was started in 814 BC. This was a major city that started with Dido from Tyre, Phoenician time. So we'll see some more. It's just mind-blowing. Standing here on the Roman Forum, overlooking these Roman ruins, which came after Carthage. Rome defeated Carthage, and some people died in the flames. But this is the site of the Roman Forum, up high, easily defended, with the Bay of Tunis and the Mediterranean, and just, sufficiently high they could see whoever was coming, so it was a perfect vantage point. And this is a Phoenician tomb that we see below us, and then built on top of that, or around it, are the foundations of Roman buildings that you didn't see because they were just the foundations, and then the buildings were higher than that. And my God, you think of the history. They talk about the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians. I've heard about the Punic Wars for, as long as I can remember almost, and I never realized that the Punic Wars were with the Carthaginians. They keep changing names on me. I get a little confused. And that wonderful building over there was a French cathedral built in the late 19th century in memory of St. Louis, who died here in Tunis in one of his campaigns against the Tunisians. I guess he wanted to make sure that their souls were in the right place. And these, can you believe, are the ruins of Carthaginian houses, only built about 200 BC, but so sophisticated. They had cisterns, they had straight streets, they were laid out in blocks, following a Hellenistic plan, and this is where the Carthaginians lived, and I'm told, on pretty good authority, that Hannibal probably walked these streets. You remember Hannibal, he was the guy who went over the Alps on an elephant. And these are most unusual, two sarcophagi, a priest and a priestess, the hand raised with, I can't remember, but has some special significance. And they have Etruscan influence and Egyptian influence, but look at this, and these are 400 BC. And these are bullets for catapults against the Romans. And as our wonderful guide said, some of them were even signed, you know, to so-and-so with love, to a Valentine. This 27-acre cemetery, the only one in North Africa, has 2,841 people buried here, Christians and Jews, and some people who are unknown, and we're going to see where the unknowns were buried. But it's so moving to be here. These are all from World War II, people who were killed in North Africa and whose families elected to let them rest where they fell. And on this wall are recorded the names of Americans who gave their lives in the service of their country and who sleep in unknown graves. And as it says in a very moving way, into thy hands, O Lord. And all these names are inscribed on this wall. We are in Shem II, a very early Berber settlement, 600 years before Christ. And this is a marble quarry where a particular kind of golden marble was quarried for use in a sanctuary and shipped to Rome for other different buildings. But this is the only place in the world where this kind of marble is quarried. And we're here to see the sites of the way the people lived when they were here, and a beautiful new museum. And here to show us around, is Dr. Mustafa Khanossi, who has devoted his life to this period of pre-Roman and then Roman history. And this is the road that went from the quarry to the river, and they'd ship these huge columns to down the river to the port and then send them to Rome. And the emperor was so controlling of this stuff that every single piece, every fragment, everything was inscribed so they could keep track of all of it and wouldn't lose it. This stela, this tall stone, is inscribed with a Berber language more than 2,300 years ago. For a long time they didn't think the Berbers had a language, an ancient language, and only recently have they found that they did and know how to translate it. And I can't tell you what it looks like. Looks like a lot of geometric stuff to me. But wow, we're standing here with 2,300 years of history in this brand new museum, just a year old, built to expose just the wonders of this part of Tunisia. Well, there are so many interesting things here in Chemtu. For example, this column that we're looking at is a column that was raised in elevation, was elevated by the citizens of Rome after Julius Caesar was assassinated. And it was dedicated to his memory, to the father of the country. And here it is in Tunisia, and I'm standing here looking at this that was dedicated to Julius Caesar. Can you believe it? It's just so fascinating. This archaeological site is Bula Regia, which was the home of a very grand Numidian king, again, you know, thousands of years old, not just, I mean, it's ancient history in the most ancient sense. And the extensive thing that we are supposed to come here for, the most important, is they have underground villas with wonderful mosaics, and we'll go take a look at them. Can you believe this? This isn't an outhouse, it's part of the home itself, part of the villa. And it's a place for two people to use in the latrine, and they even have a beautiful mosaic on the floor. Now I ask you, is there anything in this world that's new? Well, that was the servants' part of the house, where the two-holer was, and now we're in the grand, where the noble people lived. I want you to see these mosaics on the floor. I'd like to have that stonemason come to my house. I think I'd like it better than the floor in my kitchen, but I'll have to leave it here, unfortunately. Maybe I could import someone from Tunisia to come and do a modern one, but nothing could ever surpass this feeling of being here in a villa where people actually lived. Now, we're going to head below, downstairs, where the people lived during the summer, and look at this magnificent state of preservation of these mosaics. Wow, I thought. Here is a spectacular theater in Duga, which you're going to see more of. This one is just simply unbelievable. About the same time as the theater, I'm going to use it as a reference, in Orange in France. This one is not quite as large, only, listen to this, held 3,500 people, and that's in a town of about 5,000. So there was lots of competition about who could give the most money to this magnificent site to bring honor to the town of Duga, and it was Berber foundation added to by the presence of Roman people who, of course, gave their challenge to this theater, and it's amazing that it is in this state. I won't say preservation, but restoration. Absolutely. I keep using the word magnificent. There's nothing else to talk about. There's nothing else to mention. Look at, here we are, high on a hill in Duga in Tunisia. And this is closer to the theater, as you see, and they have concerts here now, all kinds of activity. Could the people who built this 2,000 years have recognized that it would still be in use at this time? People come from all over the world to give concerts and to see this. And look at these capitals and these columns. It's just, oh, breathtaking, wonderful, magnificent. How many more times can I say it? And here we are at the Capitolium, the main temple of the gods of the area. And speaking of the area, you can see now it's pretty much rubble, but you get an idea of what it was like before. And pretty soon you're going to get a glimpse of here it is, the forum where the fate of the people was debated and decided, the people of Duga. Use your imagination, folks. Here is a road in Duga that still shows the ruts of the chariots that went flying down the street. And even though you can't, you'll have to imagine a little harder. Here is Bushra. Just think of her in the long flowing robes of a Roman woman instead of in her pants and her boots. Oh well, can't have everything. Wherever the roving reporter goes, there has to be a market. And here we are in the central market of Tunis, in the main city of Tunisia. And I want you to see this tuna fish behind me. Is that gorgeous tuna? I'd like to have some of it one of these nights. And here's some little tiny fishies that come from the Mediterranean, something we don't have. Comment ça va, monsieur?
Ça va très bien, madame. Ça va très bien. Ça va très bien.
Bon. He speaks French, as you hear, and look at those beautiful little things. How about a small mountain of dates? We'll see more when we go to the south, but wherever you are in North Africa, there have to be dates. Again, when you're in North Africa, expect olives of all kinds. Only here they have capers too, and all kinds of spices. Look at those peppers. Wow, that's enough to make anybody really very hot mouth. And here are the spices used in Tunisian food. A little bit of saffron, a little bit of paprika, a bit of moukhia, I think is the pronunciation, that green thing, and it makes a black stew. You have to cook it for 3 days. Well, I guess that one's one I'm not taking home. Guess I'll have to have a little bread while I'm here. Can't have cheese without bread, although some of the cheese is for pizza, would you believe? And this is bread made of whole wheat, made of barley, made of regular wheat, blé as they call it. And then just as a reminder of the fact that the French were here for so long, there are regular baguettes. These are 4th century AD Christian mosaics from Carthage, actually, which is where Latin was first used as a church language. And this is one that says, here's the woman's name, and let her rest in peace. This is one of her tombstones. But look at this, there's no perspective, very flat, and yet beautifully, beautifully executed. This is in the Bardo Museum in Tunis, which is considered the world's greatest collection of Roman mosaics. And this is one of the masterpieces. It's in the museum. It's from Bula Regia, from one of the underground villas. And this was from the dining room. I don't have one like this on my dining room floor, but I wouldn't mind. And here we have the god of medicine. He has a caduceus. And here we have the god of guides, our man who takes us around and tells us all this wonderful material. And he knows how to do it without boring you to death. He doesn't tell you about every screw and every nail and everything. He just tells you the important parts of this Bardo Museum and other things we have seen. And of course, you know this man is not just a guide. He's a very well-known, very respected professor of archaeology. So he knows all there is to know about these things. I hope he's going to come to the United States and he can come to Philadelphia to our Museum of Archaeology in the university. And this huge mosaic is Orpheus charming the animals with his lyre. And you see them all standing there just so docile. Lions and bears and gazelles and cows and horses, but all so docile listening to his beautiful music. And what's going on here, you ask? They're auctioning the fish for the day. Whatever has been freshly caught, they're bringing in and auctioning. They start low and go high, just as we do at home. This, by the way, is on the island of Jerba, spelled J-E-R-B-A, or sometimes D-J-E-R-B-A. It's an island off of Tunisia, and most of the guys wear these flat hats, and the women too. I'm going to try to find one to bring home. This is what roughing on the island of Jerba is like. Gorgeous beaches, the sea as warm as a bathtub, warmer, and lovely gentle waves. And here's a modest little pool in the Plaza Athénée Hotel that sounds very French but has mostly German clientele, about 98%, I guess. Sort of a private club, like a Club Med. Very, you know, quite luxurious, and lots of good food, and it ain't bad. That's all I can tell you. Well, we are in Douz, deep in the Sahara of Tunisia. D-O-U-Z. Not sure if it has an E, but we really are about as Saharan as one can get. I'll show you. I'm even dressed in the proper clothes for it. I'm just waiting for my camel driver husband to come along. And I would walk over to that guy. He looks friendly, but I understand they're kind of nasty beasts. Look at him. A white camel over there. Sort of white. And maybe this is the camel driver. No, he's walking away. Well, it's an interesting sight. These aren't all for tourists. They are really, some of them, camel trains. Wow. Well, if you've ever seen dates growing, I bet you've never seen them growing with all this plastic around them. They're in the ripening stage. They're just ready to be picked. And we happen to be here at just the right time. So it's kind of nice to see them ripening or conserving so the bees don't get them. Well, I haven't seen a bee, come to think of it. Not a thing, just a fly now and then. But isn't it colorful and wonderful? This is in Douz, on the edge of the desert, and date groves galore. This is a troglodyte village in the town of Montmartre, not far from Douz, about 100 kilometers. And people live here in these houses that are constructed of this kind of soft sandstone, and they're dug into the side of the hill, their own way of maintaining cool and warm. And we'll visit one. And we just came in through that gate with the hand over it, and here are the actual houses built into the side of the hill. And I don't know whether we'll take a look inside or not. I'm sure it's pretty dark, pretty primitive, pretty interesting. Well, this is your roving reporter saying, I hope you had a wonderful time with me in Tunisia, and that you'll set your sights to going